Hello and welcome to West Country Wanderings. Welcome to my monthly vlog. My monthly vlog number 16 for the month of November 2022. Most welcome here, particularly if you are a new subscriber. I'll tell you where we're heading to. Currently, I'm at Westbury Railway Station. I don't know if you know it, but it's an important railway junction in the southwestern part of England. We've got trains here going to Portsmouth Harbour, Yeovil Junction, Cardiff, Exeter. It's a crisscross of lines right in the heart of the West Country. Also lots of freight trains here because of all the quarries that are in the area. But we're not here to do a railway series today. It's my monthly vlog. And I'm actually catching a train here. It's a Portsmouth Harbour train, just one stop away to the town of Warminster. So yes, we'll be in and around Warminster today. When I get to Warminster, I'll set my tripod up, have a chat with you properly to tell you about the format of today, how we go on with the monthly vlogs, if you've not seen one of my monthly vlogs before. Warminster. Let's wait for the train to go. Beautiful little station, a traditional GWR station in the heart of Wiltshire. We're actually in West Wiltshire. Now, I know some of you that watch my channel also watch a fellow YouTuber, much more famous than me, called Jeff Marshall. And if you watched one of his from a few years ago now, 3 or 4 years ago, you'll know the name Warminster because, not just of the railway station, because of this bus stop I'm about to show you now. Yes, it's this famous bus stop here, which is the annual bus service 23A to the village of Imber, right on Salisbury Plain. This behind me is what was Yard House, now Yard Court, built by one Edward Halliday in 1664. One of the blue plaques, many blue plaques in the historic town of Warminster here in Wiltshire. Well, welcome back to West Country Wanderings. Welcome to my monthly vlog. As I say, if you've not watched one of my monthly vlogs before, basically this is the format. I go to a new location that I've been to before, tell you a bit about the town, or the village, or the area, and then we have a look at the channel. Last month, when I went to Inkbarrow in Worcestershire, I decided to mix things up a bit. So tell you a little bit about the place, tell you about one of the videos, a little bit about the place. I'm going to do that this time as well because I seem to get some really good feedback using that format. So we'll do that. In addition, this time I'm going to add something on, is I'm going to read out the best comment from each of the videos. So I get lots of comments on all the videos I put up, but what I'm going to do this time is go and mention each one. So I'll have a look at each one that's happened during the month of November, and then we'll go back through it again and I'll read out the best comments. There's been some absolutely brilliant ones this month, so bear with me, and I'm sure you'll really enjoy listening to those comments as well. And if you have commented on any of the videos that I've done this month, I really, really do appreciate it. So yes, we're here in the town of Warminster. I've never been to the town before. It has huge army connections. It's very close to both Salisbury Plain and also Cranbourne Chase, which touches into Dorset. So we're just a few miles south of the town of Westbury too. And later on in the video, we'll have a look around this lovely town here in Wiltshire. So I'm now in the Smallbrook Meadows Nature Reserve. Got the River Wylye just down here and the boating lake where I started the video off, or the main part of the video off, just over the hedge there. The only problem with filming in that side by the boating lake, it is very busy. Had a couple of people asking me what I was doing, that sort of thing, which is great, but obviously it slows the process of making the video down. Beautiful here, still got some autumnal colours of the leaves still on the ground running parallel to the river. So before I do a dive into this town and tell you about some of the famous people that are from here, a little bit more about its history, I thought we'd dive into the first video of the month, and that was Severn Way Part 11. This is the one where we ended up at the famous Ironbridge Gorge, and it was just magnificent to see that site there. One of the things I did was, well, again, running out of daylight, Like today, it's going to be a bit of an issue because of this time of year, though you are rewarded with beautiful golden soft light, though, which is better than the summer's harshness. Hung around, I had something to eat in Ironbridge, and then I hung around and did some nighttime photography and managed to get some fantastic shots of the bridge, which is lit up at night. Never seen that before, so I was pleased with the shots of that. I'll include those in the end of the video. Video was pretty well received, as all of them in the 7-Way series. And before I read out the top comment from that video, just to say that I've put 7-Way on hold because of the weather. We had a very wet day yesterday. We're going to have another very wet day tomorrow, and the ground underfoot is just going to be extremely poor to be able to continue with that. So I'm going to put that on hold now till we get into the spring of next year, and we'll continue our way south from the Shropshire town of Ironbridge. Now, the top comment for 7-Way Part 11 was from Wending Our Way, who also run a YouTube channel. They're called Bruce and Otis. Hi, Bruce and Otis. Thanks for your comment throughout the month, and thank you in particular for the comment that you put on 7-Way 11. I'll just read it to you now. Such amazing history. These are places I sure would have liked to have visited while having a few short years in England whilst teaching some ancient history to grade 7 and 8 students. Awesome, Bruce and Otis. So yeah, thank you, Bruce and Otis. It is a tremendous place. There are many museums in the area you can visit. I can't remember how many Ironbridge Gorge museums there are, probably 8 or 9. The most famous one is probably Bliss Hill, because it's got a recreation there of an entire Victorian town. I can highly recommend that, but the other ones are well worth looking at too, including Coalport, China, which I hope to visit on my return on the 7-Way Ironbridge early next year. So on the nature reserve here, which is managed by Wiltshire Wildlife Trust, but also the Army have some input into it as well. Perhaps some of it was former Army land, I'm not sure, but it's now a nature haven. There is this little lake here which is protected. You can't go near it for protect the wildlife. So Warminster itself has a population of 17,000 people, and the name Warminster actually comes from the Old English war, W-A-R-U. And you're probably thinking that's something to do with war, battles. It isn't. It's the opposite of that. It actually means to protect or defend, and it seems apt because this is home to the British Army. Our second video of the month was from the town of Somerton in Somerset, a little known town. I'd never heard of it before, actually, until a couple of weeks before I decided to go there to make the video about it. It's a really interesting, quiet and tranquil, beautiful little market town, and I enjoyed spending a couple of hours there filming around the town centre. It was a bit of a joy because, unlike most town centres, it's pretty quiet, and that makes filming a much easier process. Now, when I was doing the research for the video, one of the things I come across was that Marconi, him of course that did the first transatlantic radio transmissions, he had a small building just outside of the town of Somerton, and I posed the question in the video as to why it was there, because it didn't really make much sense. It's not particularly high town, so it was really interesting to know what that was all about. And one of the viewers that watched that video gave me an answer in the comments, and I'll read it to you now. Yes, it's from a gentleman called Richard Wakely. Hi Richard, and thanks very much for your comment, and I'll read it what he said. He said the radio site at Somerton was some of the transmitters for Portishead Radio, which communicated with ships all over the world by high frequency. Somerton was probably for ship-to-shore telephone channels. So that's really interesting, and thank you for Richard for adding that comment into the video there, and thank you if you watched it and commented on it as well. Now I've moved around somewhat, and I do apologise for noise that'll be in the background. It does sound like some of the time I'm actually standing in the middle of a war zone. I've got a firing range down there, Battlesbury Army Camp, and there's an army training camp over that side too. So welcome to Salisbury Plain, and Battlesbury Hill, which is just behind me. I'll have a closer look at that. It's certainly living up to its name here. In fact, it was a bit like walking through a battlefield to get here because of the mud. It's been a pretty horrendous walk. Difficult to film. I'm sorry I couldn't show you any of it because the footpath goes right next to the army barracks Battlesfield. Also goes past a school, so it's just a no-no for filming anywhere in that area. You go over a place called Battlesbury Bridge, which was built by the War Department, goes over the main railway line which carries on down south to Portsmouth, where we got off that train earlier, of course. There's also plenty of military railway sidings, but again, I did not feel comfortable filming in that area. There's many tank supplies and armoured vehicle supplies in that area, Land Rovers, that sort of thing, ready for the army to go out on missions all around the world. That's one of their supplies depots. But we've got, as I said, we've got training going on here and training over there. Anyway, I'm going to see if I can find somewhere a little bit quieter to tell you a little bit more about this town of Warminster. So that's our army firing range at Battlesbury Barracks, as close as I'm going to get that. Our railway line is just in front of it, incredibly so. Sounds like there's live firing going on there at the moment. Now, the army presence here is actually called Waterloo Base. The Royal Dragoon Guards are based here too. And it's spread out through much of the town, particularly the, not sure, south or east, I can't quite remember. No, it must be west, south or west of the town, in the direction down the valley towards the city of Salisbury, which we will feature on the town. I've been to Salisbury a couple of times, but I've never done it yet for West Country Wanderings, and I hope to bring you that at some point, probably next year. In the new year, we'll have a trip down to Salisbury, which is only another 200 minutes further south on the train from here. But yeah, really enjoying my day. Just to tell you a little bit more about the town here, I'm just outside Battlesbury Wood at the moment, and Battlesbury Hill, which is kind of in that direction, is the land is actually owned by the Ministry of Defence Estates, although you are able to access it. It's a right of way, and you can't explore it unless they are closing it for live firing on it, and they put the red flags up for that, like they do across anywhere across Salisbury Plain. So I just brought the camera on its tripod into the wood because it's just started to have a bit of rain. Did forecast some rain today, but a lot better than it was yesterday, and tomorrow's not looking great either. But yeah, just to tell you about a few people that are from the town of Salisbury. The first one was Henry Wansley. He was a Wiltshire woolen manufacturer. In fact, he set up many of the wool factories in the town here of Warminster. It's known for processing wool, not so much these days, but he was back in the day. When he had enough of being an industrialist, doing all the wools, he then decided to spend the latter part of his life travelling the world, which he did extensively, going into the Americas and into Africa. And he wrote about that in his travel journals, and it's a very celebrated travel writer too. Now, the second person from Warminster who was famous was a child actor by the name of Freddie Bartholomew. He actually played leading parts in the films Little Lord Fauntleroy and I knew you're going to struggle with that one since I made the notes for this, Little Lord Fauntleroy, and also the film David Copperfield. He later moved into Hollywood. I think he married a film producer. He married about 4 times before dying. I think he died in his late 60s. But yeah, he was from the town here, and as I say, he worked his way up through the world of film. Third film I made for the Channel 4 the month of November was Birmingham Moor Street, a little bit outside of the area that I normally cover, but of course I always say that I cover everywhere Birmingham and south of that, so it was right on the extreme of the limit. And of course it's a very, very urban place, which again goes against the grain from my West Country Wanderings channel. But the reason I wanted to do that, because it's an iconic GWR station. Obviously GWR has big associations with the West Country, and many trains left from that station back in the day, steam trains heading into the resorts, Torbay, the Cornish Riviera, those sort of things. It would have left from that station. And a few years ago it was been beautifully restored. I'd never seen it. I'd seen photographs of it in railway magazines, that sort of thing, but I wanted to see it for myself, and I was absolutely delighted with that. I caught a train up from Wootton Warren, a place in Warwickshire, which we've been to before in one of the canal series, and it was just a stunning place. And I did a short tour in that one around Birmingham, not sort of thing I would normally do, but that seemed to have been really well received on the channel. Anyway, I had a very, very nice comment from one of the viewers on that, and I'd like to share that with you now. The comment is from a gentleman called Graham Sinnott, and I do apologise for the live firing behind me. The comment was from one Graham Sinnott. Thank you very much, Graham, for your comment, a delightful comment. I spent many hours there in the steam days, working the local trains to Lapworth and Henley in Arden, also shunting goods, as these were the goods sheds. The 2 of them were actually underground. Fascinating, I didn't know that. The A and the B sheds, which handled perishables, including bananas. There were 3 wagon hoists which lowered the wagons underground. At the bus stops were traversier tables, and they moved the engines sideways to allow the engines to run round its stop. I expect that there are still some at the platform, underneath the platforms today. That's absolutely fascinating. I wasn't aware of that at Birmingham Moor Street. If I can find a photograph of those traversier tables that's out of copyright, I'll insert that around now. But thank you very much, Graham, for first-hand knowledge of your memories of working at Birmingham Moor Street. It really brought that video to life. Thanks very much. Now I've come out of Battlesbury Woods up to the top of Battlesbury Hill. Magnificent view across Warminster there and the Army Barracks too. And again, apologies for any live firing or noises of tanks doing movements around this area, because there's rather a lot. But we're pretty safe here. They don't use this because, of course, this is a triple SI and a site of historic importance. It is an Iron Age fort that was actually constructed in the first millennium, so we're looking at 0 AD or 0 BC, whichever you prefer. We've got triple embankments here with ditches going around. We'll probably utilise some of those to do some more of the recording, because it is quite windy up here and it's going to get cold. So I might get inside one of those to get a bit of shelter to give you more information about both Warminster and what's been happening on the channel. But yeah, it's a fantastic site. I don't think I've ever actually been on Salisbury Plain before, so this is a first for me. And just to absorb the views across there. It was raining quite heavy in the woods, and I thought I'm gonna have to do the rest of the film in the woods, but I'm so glad I persevered, because the rain has stopped and the sun is just glimmering, trying to come through here on the top of the plain. We're now inside one of the many embankments here. There's 3, so you've got another 2 of these that run in parallel, like concentric circles. So there's one on the outside of this and one on the inside, a bit closer to the summit here, Battlesbury Hill. So I say it is an Iron Age hill fort. It is protected site under the care of the Ministry of Defence. You might be surprised to know the Ministry of Defence, although they use tanks and throw bombs and grenades and all that kind of stuff, when they move out of an area, the area then tends to be left completely alone. We are in a safe space here, don't worry, there's no mines in this area, but there are places on Salisbury Plain which are verboten and you can't go on them, although that is still good for wildlife because there's no human presence there, so here's a spin-off from that. After the Iron Age, this was actually used during the Bronze Age, and in the 19th century when they did excavations here on the top of Battlesbury Hill, they found lots of children's skeletons here that had actually been buried with animals, which I not come across that before. That seems to be a bit of a first, a bit of a mystery on that. Now I'll probably stay in this bit for filming because it protects you from the worst of the cannon fire that's going off down in the bottom there. The next video on my channel this month was a trip down to Cornwall. In fact, I made 6 videos. 3 of them have been published now, they've been edited. There's another 3 to go. In fact, 2 more may arrive, I'll talk about that in a bit, before this video goes up, if you see what I mean. So I'm recording this about a week or so just before the end of November, so another couple may go up. But the next one was a trip to Bude. I did that on the way down into Cornwall. I went down the M5, came off at Tiverton along the North Devon Link Road, joined up the Atlantic Highway into the town of Bude. Been there many, many times when I used to live down in Redruth, and further down in West Cornwall there is about an hour's drive from Redruth area, Truro. And I love the town. I just think it's absolutely wonderful. You probably think that the town itself isn't particularly aesthetically pleasing, and that is a fair point, because it's not old, it doesn't have historical value, because the centre of the town, it isn't actually Bude, it's actually a place called Stratton, which I mentioned in the video. It's about a 1 mile outside of the town centre, and that's the historic centre. I didn't have enough time to explore that at that point. But the main attraction, well, 2 main attractions with Bude, is 1, the Bude Canal, and it just has that aesthetic beauty as it curves down to the sea lock, onto the beach, onto Summerlees Beach, just terrific. And of course, the other attraction is the coastline. The rocks and the colours of the rocks and the folds and the formations is just amazing. We will be back there again. I'm hoping to stay there in the springtime to bring you both more of the Bude Canal, because it's unique, as I explained in the video, and also to bring you more of the coastline in that area, that part of Cornwall, which tends to get forgotten. People go down to places like St Ives, they'll head into down onto the Lizard or other places, Newquay, Perranporth. But Bude, although people go into Bude for surfing, they don't tend to explore both north and south of it, so that's what I'm hoping to do. Anyway, there was a top comment from that video, and I'd like to thank one of my viewers and subscribers called Sean Spencer. And I think Sean joined me from Louise's channel. Hi Louise, from Southwest Sundays. And I'll just read you his comment here. Good to see the canal back to normal levels, because when I was just there last time, about 18 months ago, they had drained a lot of it. And they were dredging it as well, and it was a bit unsightly. So when I was there filming, it was full to the brim. So he's pleased to see that, as was I. When the tide is level with the cross. Now, in the video, I showed a small, simple cross on a rock at low tide on the beach. And I asked the question, what is that cross for? Did it symbolise somewhere a ship had come aground? Because there's many shipwrecks in and around Bude because of the hazardous nature of the coastline. I thought, had it been put there to represent part where a ship had gone down? And Sean answered that question. No, it was nothing to do with a shipwreck. He goes on to explain, when the tide is level with the cross section and the cross section of it, so you've got that bit, it's very significant, the bit where it crosses on the cross, the tide is at the half tide point, hence half tide cross. So that cross is actually called half tide cross. I didn't know that. All the time I've been living in Cornwall, I thought I should have known that, but I didn't know that. So this is why it's great to have all these brilliant subscribers and viewers that know so much stuff as well and can add into my research, and I can share that with you as well. So it's half tide cross, and it symbolises the halfway between full tide, high tide and low tide. So when the water's there, you know it's exactly halfway. Now, on the subject of questions and the brilliant knowledge that my subscribers and viewers has, I have no idea what this is. Now, there is a bit of graffiti on it which dates back to 1978, so I know that. I'm thinking it's something symbolic to do with the army. Perhaps it represents where somebody's ashes were scattered. I'm just guessing, no idea. But what I can tell you, there's two more on the top. When I talked about those concentric rings bearing around, there's a little bit in the distance, but they follow a path. So I'm not sure if it's to denote the edge of something here on Battlesbury Hill, or it's something to do with representing somebody that was sadly died in conflict. I don't know. If you have any ideas, please let me know. Well, it's a bit chilly up there, so that's why I've decided to come back down here. It's a bit more sheltered from the worst of the wind. Anyway, the sun's come out, so, but you can't feel it on my face because, or I can't feel it on my face, you can't feel it, obviously you're just watching the video. I can't feel it on my face because the wind chill factor. Anyway, before I go on to the next video, I just want to tell you a little bit more about the town of Warminster and somebody that came from it. Now, that person was Beryl May Dent, not a household name at all, but really important in the world of mathematics and physics. She was an absolute brain boss, and she worked with some of the top physicians in the field. She did the maths side of it. Of course, maths and physics are really linked, particularly when you get to the subatomic structure phase, which is what she was into. Now, I've read up about what she actually invented, and I had to read it several times because I didn't understand it, but I'll try and explain it the best I can. Now, her field of work was in atomic force microscopy. Yes, it's a mouthful. Atomic force microscopy. Now, from what I've read, what's that used for is high scanning microscopes. And when I think about microscopes, I'm normally just thinking of getting some pond water like you used to do at school and look at that under the microscope and see what you can see, the amoebas floating around. No, this is much more resolution of that and a much more atomic level. And the implications of that in terms with things like quantum physics, looking at atomic and subatomic structures. Obviously they're using that in the nuclear fuels industry, but much else besides in terms of biology as well and medical science. But yeah, one very clever lady from here in the town of Warminster. Sorry about the dodgy lighting, but it's got shadows all over the place. That's the trouble with filming this time of the year. The next video on my channel was again a trip into Cornwall. I stayed there overnight, so I didn't go back up this time, although I usually do that. It was looking at the Newquay to Truro Railway, and I've got my daughter to thank for this one. In fact, my daughter did a lot of the research on this one and highlighted the locations that would be best to film. She was saying, Dad, you haven't done a video on Newquay to Truro Railway. There's nothing on YouTube, or very little about it on YouTube. So I haven't done ours about it, decided to do it, and we did it together, though my daughter doesn't like appear in shot. I'd like to thank Nicole for making that video. There was much of it was thanks to her, so thank you, Nicole. And we visited Newquay. No surprise to say that it's not one of my favourite places. It's very built up, very, very modern, and gets very busy, and everything shuts down at the winter time. So it's not one of my favourite places in Cornwall, I have to say. But we set off there from the railway station, because that's where obviously the railway started, or did back in the day. And we tried to follow the course of the railway as best we could till it joined up with the main line at Blackwater Junction and near the village of Chasewater. Well, anyway, that video was actually the best viewed video as of this morning. It's something like 510 views, been the most popular video of all the videos I've done for the month of November, one obviously in my railway series. Had a really nice comment from a gentleman called David Bellamy. Just like to read you that now. Hi Paul, what an interesting line. I never knew that it existed, or that even that Perranporth used to have a railway at all. In fact, a lot of people that go to Perranporth these days aren't even aware of that fact, because where the railway was, the main station, completely obliterated. It's now an industrial site. That's not obviously somewhere where people on holiday are going to go and see anyway. There is a very small section which I featured in the video. It's the other side of the boating lake. If you want to go and check that out, if you're ever in Perranporth, it's worth looking at. Anyway, he goes on to write, we used to holiday in Newquay in the 1970s. I think it was a lot better then in the 1970s now. And I remember walking the branch through the town, which eventually tunnels down to the harbour. Now it does. If you do go down to Newquay Harbour, you can actually see a tunnel there in the harbour wall. And I do remember that was an aquarium. I think the aquarium is now closed, because I think it's now called the Blue Lagoon. It's on the other side of town, if memory serves correctly. But you can see where the tunnel came out. There was a tramway come railway which came out of the main station. In fact, myself and Nicole walked down it when we were having a coffee there just before we started filming, and it did go to the point there. I seem to recall the tunnel mouth was an aquarium, as he goes on to write, but thank you very much for reminding me of that, David, because I didn't mention it in the video. But it just kind of makes me think that places like Perranporth could very much do with having a railway these days, because of all the sheer number of tourist ones that come along. But yeah, I think that's tank movements we got around here. Hopefully it won't be coming around there anytime soon. I don't think I'll be able to get a shot of it though. But thank you if you watched it, and thank you for it making it the top video in the month of November. You can see the red flag flying over there. There is a public footpath. I'm not going to go through that kissing case on a bit further, because you know, it might be stray bullets going around. I'm still expecting to see a tank coming over that horizon. I keep hearing them. I can hear Caterpillar tracks going, and I was hoping to get a bit of a shot of a tank for you, but alas no, I can just only hear them, I'm afraid. Just come on to a couple more videos that I featured on the channel for the month of November. To say, before I do that, I'm actually standing on the Wessex Ridgeway. I don't know where that goes to and from. Obviously it crosses Wessex. I'll put the details of the Wessex Ridgeway if you're interested in walking along that yourself, but watch out for the red flags. The next video that I did on my channel was Bradford-on-Avon. I did this just a few days ago, in fact. I caught the train to Bradford-on-Avon. Been looking at places I can get to from home in Gloucestershire just on the train, and Bradford-on-Avon is a brilliant place, because not only does it have a railway station, it has frequent trains, and bonus, the railway station's right slap bang in the town centre. That isn't always the case with railway stations. If you ever caught a train anywhere, sometimes you have to get a taxi to get into the town. But yeah, beautiful town. I've been there a few times before, and it's one I've been wanting to bring to you on the channel for some time. But yeah, lovely town in I nearly said Somerset then. Terrible me. Wiltshire, which is where we are now, of course. Wiltshire on the River Avon, and also on the Kennet and Avon Canal. Anyway, I had a lovely comment about that video. I'll just read it to you now. And it's from a gentleman called Michael Miller. Hi, Michael. Michael often comments on my videos. And again, I think he's another gentleman that came to my channel from Ron, from Parkinson's Walks. Hi, Ron, as well. Another good and Paul. What an interesting place, and that 17th century building on the bridge with its own lock-up building. Yes, I was aware of the bridge and a building on the bridge, but I wasn't aware of what it had been used for until I was doing the research for that video. And I just done a little bit more research about it. The lock-up was where the prisoners were held, and they were held there until they could actually get to be seen by the magistrates, whether that was the next morning or the next week. So I don't know how long they would have actually stayed on there until at all. The other thing to tell you about that is that it is open to the general public on the Heritage Open Days. Now the trouble is with these Heritage Open Days, they're only about for 2 or 3 days long, and there's just a multitude of things that are rarely opened, all open on the same day, and it's usually very inconvenient for me to get to. It's usually raining or I'm doing something else and I can never get to them. But if you want to see the inside of that lockup, look out for the Heritage Open Days in September of 2023. Now, the fourth video on my channel for the month of November was, appropriately enough, a Gloucestershire woodland. In fact, it was titled Autumn in brackets 2. The reason for that, of course, is I'd done the autumn season in that wood once before, but I thought because we're coming to the autumn, and it was a particularly spectacular autumn this week, as you can see by the remains of autumn still here as we're now going into the winter months, of course, I thought I'd do that again. They seem to be really popular on the channel, and I decided to revisit that Gloucestershire woodland again and tell you different aspects of the woodland this time, about how the trees go in from autumn to winter and why they do it, why they shed their leaves. It seemed to be really pretty well received video, and one of the top comments on there is from a gentleman called Michael Pilling, who's from Poland. In fact, he joined my channel from Ron's channel over at Parkinson's Walks, and I'll just read you his comment now. Hello Paul, greetings from Poland. Our second autumnal visit to the woods, just as nice as previous. We all see trees every day. Yes, definitely. But after listening to this video, my perspective has changed. My understanding of the woodland scene has increased, and I now look at trees in a completely different light. Thank you, Michael, for that really interesting comment. And what he's referring to there is, I don't have any prior extensive botany knowledge or anything like that. For each of those videos that I do each season, I do extensive reading up about it and just bring you some of the top facts that I find particularly interesting. And it's really about how trees seem to have this other life. We used to think as plants and trees, it's just innate, like they don't have any awareness like we do with mammals, like, you know, all different animals are aware, you know, we have our 5 senses like cats and dogs and other animals, horses do. But we didn't really see plants in the same way, but we're now beginning to learn a lot more about trees and how they communicate with each other and how they are social creatures indeed in the woodland where they're living and growing together. And the next video that landed on my channel, another Cornwall one. Yes, we were at Charlestown Harbour, a very historic working harbour. It's privately owned. It was built by Rashleigh, forgotten his surname, William, was it William Rashleigh? I can't remember. I'll put that in below. In sometime in the 1700s, and it was extended in the 1820s. But thankfully it's been very much preserved. It's been used by the film industry many times, both Poldarks, the one in 75 and the most recent one, 6-7 years ago now, also was used in the film Alice in Wonderland about 10 or 11 years ago. Many other films besides that. Really enjoyed making that video, and I did it using mainly photography, but particularly black and white photography and music, because I thought that gave a better representation of the atmosphere of the place, and it's gone down particularly well. And I'll just read you a comment now, and it's from Adventures with an M&M. And in fact, this is a YouTuber's. They're from the other side of the Atlantic. Well worth checking them out. Really quirky videos, really interesting videos as well. Thank you very much for your comment. Adventures with M&M, such a neat place. We have ocean towns here too. That harbour wall was very impressive indeed. It was so thick and strong, because it needs to be. One of my direct relatives was responsible for building them in the early 1800s in America. Wow, isn't that absolutely amazing? So there's a direct connection there between those YouTubers, their ancestors, and building harbour walls just the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. I'll leave you on that note with that video. There's 2 other videos which may or may not appear by the time I've edited or put this one up. I'm actually in the process of editing a video called Lerrin. Well, it's in the village of Lerrin. Now, a little while ago, a lady called Kathy Dyer, hi Kathy, who came to me again from Louise's Southwest Sundays channel, requested, I did one actually some time ago, I think it was on the Grand Western Canal at Tiverton, which it was all just natural sounds of bird life and the water lapping, that sort of thing. And I hadn't done one of those for a little while. They're actually really difficult to do, because like today with the light firing, the tanks, we got some workmen building a roof on one of the army buildings down there, drilling, sawing, all that type of thing. Every time you want to do something like that, you have lots of noise rather than just the natural noise that you want. That was the case at Lerrin, although I did manage to capture some interesting audio, which I'm going to use in the video. A lot of it, there were some builders on the opposite side, and because of the nature of the geography, it's a narrow river valley there. The noise they were making on the other side of the river was echoing on both sides of the banks, and you could hear it all around. It was just too obvious. So I've had to do a lot of dubbing with that, so it's taking a little bit of time. Hopefully that will appear soon. And also I've got one more for you, which will probably upload before this one uploads, and that's a long one. Down on the Lizard again, one of my favourite parts of Cornwall, Lizard and Roseland, bliss, lovely. The Lizard, yeah, it's the remotest part of the West Country, any part of the West Country I've ever been to, including parts of Dartmoor, which we will do more on Dartmoor at some future point too as well. But yeah, it's around the village of Porthewstock, and I'm not sure whether to brand it as a railway series one, because I think that's slightly disingenuous. Anyway, we're looking for remains of the old mineral line, but we uncover many other things aside from that as well. Another one I did with my daughter. So it's not, if you're not into railways, don't worry, you'll still be plenty of things interested in that. If you like Cornish coastline, you'll love it. So that's coming soon as well. If you watch any of my videos this month, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it. Cheers. Now, before I sign off today, I'd like to give a few shout outs for some of the people that regularly make comments that I may or may not have mentioned today, but I'm going to mention these people now because they always, or nearly always, comment on my videos and really support West Country Wanderings, and without you guys I couldn't really do it. So big thank you. So I'm just going to go through the list now. The first one is Donna's Adventures, and I think I've mentioned Donna's channel before. She lives over the Atlantic Ocean in Canada this time, and she has a brilliant channel if you particularly like nature and walking trails, the sort of stuff I do sometimes. You'll really like her channel, well worth seeking out to get a flavour of what nature is like in Canada. Check out Donna's Adventures, and thank you, Donna, for your regular comments on my channel too. I really do appreciate it. The next one is Michael Pilling. I mentioned one of Michael's comments a little while ago. Michael went through my entire back catalogue and watched every single one of the videos I've done. That's dedication for you. So thank you, Michael. I really do appreciate that, and thank you for your regular, indeed, a comment on every video that I do, and your support, unstinting support for West Country Wanderings. It's very much appreciated. Next person who regularly comments on my channel is Louise from Southwest Sundays, and thank you, Louise, for the collaboration we did in Bath. And it's good to see that Louise's channel is doing really, really well. In fact, she's done a fantastic video on East Devon coastline just a few days ago. In fact, it went up on Sunday. I put it on my Facebook group. I'll put a link to it in the description because it's terrific. It's terrific. It has got some fantastic surprises. It's one of her longer videos, and stay with it all the way through because it has a brilliant surprise towards the end. Terrific work, and thanks, Louise, for regularly commenting on my channel too. The next one is Faith G. Thank you very much, Faith, for also been watching my back catalogue. I know you've watched the entire Devon playlist, and I think you're now working through the Cornwall playlist too, and also my most recent videos too. So thank you very much, Faith. I really appreciate your comments too. As to Kathy Dyer, and again, Kathy came to me from Louise's channel from Southwest Sundays. So thank you, Kathy. Some brilliant comments you've been putting on my channel. Really do appreciate that, and also commenting on my posts on Facebook. So thanks for that too. Ian K. Ian's been a regular contributor back from the earlier days on my channel. I'm not sure if he came to me from Ron's channel. I'm not sure, but I can't remember. But Ian, brilliant. Thanks very much for your comments. Really do appreciate that. Adventures with M&M. Well, I've just mentioned their channel, but again, that's well worth seeking out. I'll put a link to their channel in today's description of today's video too. Also, we've got Ted and Carol Collins. Ted just put up a really good video recently. Ted used to live in Gloucestershire around the Cam Dursley area, so he's got connections that way. He also knows a fellow YouTuber, Roy Edwards, and Deb's Most Excellent Adventures. Hi Roy, hi Debs too, I've mentioned previously, and I regularly comment, and they also regularly comment on my channel too. But Ted has also put up a video recently looking at the area he now lives, which isn't in this part of the world. It's actually in Leicestershire around the town of Colville. It's a really good video looking at connections to the former coal mining in the collieries, the extensive collieries that used to be in that area. So if you're interested in industrial archaeology like I am, that one's well worth checking out too. A couple more for you is Des Byrne. Hi Des, for your comments, I really do appreciate that. Thank you, thanks for supporting West Country Wanderings. And finally for this month, David Bellani. I do apologise if I've not quite pronounced your surname correctly. Perhaps you can correct me if I pronounce it wrong. I do apologise for that. But again, thank you for some excellent comments during this month, and I rode out one of them too. So thank you, all of you, for anybody's commented on my videos for this month, or indeed at all. I do really appreciate it. Really helps to support the channel. Nearly it for today. I say nearly it because I haven't mentioned about what's coming up. We'll be doing a Christmas thing early December. It's going to be a collaboration. I'm not going to say who it's with yet, but I'm going to do a collaboration with another YouTuber. It's a Christmassy one. It's going to be to do with candles, castles, nice villagey atmosphere. Well, hopefully anyway, so hopefully that comes off. That's going to be happening in December. I'll probably do one I did last year. I did a nighttime photography one around the town of Pershore in Worcestershire. So maybe I'll do another one looking at Christmas lights in a different town this year. So hopefully that'll be happening as well. I'd say there won't be a 7-way one, I'm afraid, because it's just too, like today, it's getting up here, it's a nightmare. So that'll reappear back in the springtime. But I may do a Cotswold Walks one. I'll choose somewhere which I know to be, it'll be closer to me, which I know to be less boggy, hopefully, if I can get a weather window to do it. So I haven't done a Cotswold Walks one this month, so there'll be a Cotswold Walks one appearing as well. There'll also be a photography, not sure one yet, so you'll have to watch out for that one. As I say, photography, not talking about photography, but a photo one, which will probably be a short bike one somewhere in the West Country region. And I've got another railway one coming up as well. So I know the railway series are very popular, so look out for that. Hope you enjoy the content this month. I'm going to close the video with a tour of the town of Warminster, where today's video was from. Thank you very much for watching. Look after yourselves, take care, and hope to see you on the channel again very soon. All the best. Bye-bye.